Mr. President, anyone who's tried to buy a carton of eggs at the grocery store lately has probably seen a sign on the empty shelves saying there is a national shortage of eggs because of the bird flu. And the reason that notices like this exist is because the Department of Health and Human Services tracks disease outbreaks around the clock and notifies the public in real time. And of course, we take that for granted. We should take that for granted. It's the kind of thing that the government just does and that we normally don't argue about. There are lots of things for us to argue about, but whether or not the government should tell us if there's a public health problem has never been something that we've argued about. We take it for granted, but it's an invaluable service that keeps the public safe and healthy, which is why it was so bizarre that in one of his first acts as president, Donald Trump suspended all communications from HHS, health advisories, scientific reports, updates on the website, all of it. Now, what is that supposed to do other than keep people from getting the information that they need to keep their families healthy? This is about being able to know if a certain kind of meat or vegetable has been contaminated and staying away from it. For instance, when there was an E. coli outbreak at McDonald's last year, the FDA immediately sent out an alert, which the press picked up on and warned the public about. Those communications are paused. Cucumbers at Costco was another example. E. coli at McDonald's, and I don't mean to pick on these particular companies. Lots of retail operations have their various public health problems. And I understand elections have consequences, right? And it is within the scope of a new administration. It is reasonable for them to kind of take a look at all public policy and implement their own public policy. But look, this is a little nuts. And I'm assuming that there was a person in the White House, or in the transition team, writing up a bunch of executive orders and thinking through an ideological lens or even like an electoral lens. Fair enough. And they wanted to have a bunch of executive orders ready to roll. And so day one, boom, nothing coming out of HHS. But the problem is that this isn't partisan. This isn't what people thought they were voting for. And this really could jeopardize the public health. And so the resolution I'm introducing and asking for unanimous consent on is very simple. It reaffirms the very basic belief that people deserve to have timely and accurate information relevant to their health and well-being. We're not arguing about a COVID response, right? We just want to know if there's a problem in what you're about to eat. And suspending those communications has nothing to do with party. It has to do with keeping everybody safe. And so if there is a problem during this pause, the Department of Health and Human Services will not communicate to the public about it. And so, as if in legislative session and notwithstanding Rule 22, I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the consideration of my resolution at the desk, further that the resolution be agreed to, the preamble be agreed to, and that the motions to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate.
Is there objection? The senator from Florida.
Mr. President, reserving the right to object. I think all of us, I agree with my colleague that we can agree it's very important that the American people have readily available access to accurate and timely public health information. I don't think anyone disputes that, and no one should have to doubt the important work done by the Department of Health and Human Services to provide the American people with the information they need to remain healthy and safe. But this resolution is unnecessary. The new administration just took office and issued a temporary pause until February 1 on all communications coming from its agencies without approval. They have every right to do this. To be frank, they have a lot of problems to solve from the prior administration. I hope we can focus on confirming nominees quickly. The sooner his team gets in place, the sooner he can deliver on his promises to the American people. Therefore, I object.